really hate that notice.
And I have searched high and low. I mean, I'm fine with the notification. I just wish it were different.
Yes.
And I have searched and I cannot find any way to replace that notification with something else. You cannot
Like
customize
the warning klaxons from Star Trek or something.
anything almost would be better than that. But yes, that is because more than anything, the volume level is disproportionate
Oh,
to
they want to make sure you can hear it. They want to
yeah.
make sure you can hear it. There is no if, ands, or buts about this. So I'm trying to remember what are we talking about today there. Like this guy writes his newsletter and doesn't take good notes on his own. So, for those of you, like some of you here are, this looks like your first time on a weekly meeting.
Yeah, we do have several.
And we work through a schedule every quarter of what is it that is most valuable for your MSP and what can you go on. So rather than just shooting from the hip, we actually have scheduled topics. So if you read through the newsletter, you will see what it is that we're coming up on. So if you need to skip and not listen to me drone on about quarterly sessions, or if you don't want to hear about risk analysis, then feel free to tune out or watch the recording. But what you should probably think about is like next quarter is going to be a huge value for a lot of you out there. And the reason is that because cybersecurity is my pastime. I was a CISSP. I ran cybersecurity departments. And so next quarter is all around risk analysis and benefits. So when you see like our topics coming up for the next 12 weeks, you're going to see them all focused on risk and how to address that using the risk NIST report that Skip developed, and how to approach your clients when it comes to risk. Some of you are outsourcing, some of you are handling your own cybersecurity initiatives. Whatever it is, this next quarter is going to be a ride. And the reason why we made it Q3 is October is cybersecurity month. And so we want to line that up. So while corporate world is having excitement around this topic, we want to be ready with reports that we can just deliver and shine right at them. Like, hey, if you work with us, you get assessed on risk every year. It's part of our services, and that's a huge.
Yeah, and that every year sort of deal. And I've talked with a lot of you guys, and uh, nothing new, but there's this constant theme of how do we show value? How do we differentiate ourselves between our competitors? And we all kind of hear the same sort of message. And when I say we, I say MSPs. I mean across the board, thousands and thousands of us. And so the websites look very similar. The messaging is all very similar, and you will often struggle in communicating to your clients that yes, you are actually different than that guy down the street, than that guy that's offering them $3 less per seat, or just trying to undercut, or maybe you're trying to win business over for someone else. And being able to have this specific message that says we are different and this is how we do it. And I wish I could have a better visual or snazzier saying, but I really think there's a lot of value in being able to tell your clients this is how we do it. You show them, it's the roadmap, it's the plan. It's this is what we're going to do for you. These are some sample reports, and being able to really make a tangible demonstration of what that difference is very powerful for your organizations. So back to Adam's comment there, getting those planned out, being able to say every year we're going to do this. And then you have to have a process that ensures that you do that. And then you need to be able to have a deliverable that testifies to what you did. So that is, an important process to really differentiate yourself.
Yep. And so to get us the topic of this particular session, the last session of Q2. So for those of you out there, if you remember, Q2 is all about service delivery. And so when Skip says this is how we do things, you gotta say what you're gonna say it, and then repeat.
Yeah.
Remember that from junior high when you're talking about doing your standardized 5 paragraph thesis. And so when you're dealing with a client, especially with smaller MSPs, you want to be able to say what you're going to do and show them, then do it in the background because they really don't want to see how the hot dogs are made. And then at the end, show them like, hey, here's how far we came. And you can do that with everything. So with service delivery, this quarter, you should have audited their services. Are they aligning correctly? And at the end of the quarter, say, hey, look how things have improved because now we are aligned to service delivery. And then the last thing we need to know that I really wanted to hit on is if you read it in the non newsletter, is that this is or yesterday was the end of the fiscal year. And so depending on which country you're in, it gets a little wonky, but your government clients and everybody are starting on this fresh new year. But the weird thing about fiscal year clients is that they plan in November because they've got to go through approval processes. So when I worked for the city, we had to get approval from the city. First, we had to get approval from the CEO of the company that I was working for, and then we had to get mayoral approval on our budgets, and then we got our budgets the next year, and so we could run it starting in July. It was just really weird how things worked out there, but you have to look at what your clients are doing, and then you take this project roadmap that I'm going to show you in the tool and line that up. So what I said in the email here was this is a culture thing, that most businesses who observe fiscal years are all about organization and are sticklers for rules because they are highly regulated. Almost every single person running a financial year roadmap in the United States, at least, they're all under a regulatory body of some kind. Either they're in the financial sector or they're in the government sector, and they've got to observe so many rules. So they like to see a plan. And if they can see the plan, they can approve a plan. So what you need to do is let me do my fancy share here.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, we're not doing whiteboard. Not yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
Just fancy share. Make myself big. This is a hack for Zoom. If you share your desktop, you get a high resolution image. So what we have here is Skip's favorite company, Joe's Trucks. Mm-hmm. And in the fiscal year, we want to set up a roadmap. Now, Joe's Trucks, traditionally, when we set up Joe's Trucks, it's more of an annual budget. But when you look at your fiscal year, you're saying, okay, Q3 is where you start. And so you're going to run your projects Q3, Q4, Q1, Q2. Whereas when you're your average customer, you're going to pitch them this roadmap. So when you're creating your proposals for what you want to do, you're kicking it over and you're pitching these to your clients in this quarter. What are you going to do for them this quarter that is going to take them to the next level? Where did all these come from? These all came from the reports you ran on the back end. So if you've been following the HIT roadmap, the framework this year, you'll have done an architecture audit and you'll have done a service audit. Now, if you're really on top of the ball, you got your risk audit done as well so that you could create these proposals. But right now isn't necessarily the time to do proposals for fiscal year clients. Right now is a time to be preparing their next fiscal year budget. I know this sounds weird, but you're planning for the next fiscal year. So what you want to do is you go through here when you're doing your QBR with your customers and line these up. You should be talking about these. You should have all sorts of notes inside of here. That's the deliverables that show them what is going to be delivered when they buy into this package.
All right, and one tip I just got to throw in here. As you put these projects on the roadmap, all right, these projects come from your assessments. So 99 times out of 100, the projects here need to come from the assessment. There is that add a project feature down there at the bottom. Use that very, very carefully. That is not an ideal solution. I mean, every once in a while we need that, but we need this process of assess, recommend, and then roadmap. All right, and that creates a closed loop. And as you see here, like the first one there, the first one that is the Keep Track of iPads project. All right, under the hood, that is a mobile device management implementation or something. Yeah, mobile device management project service. All right, sounds all official and techy and all. And if we leave the project that name, our clients are going to look at that and gloss over too many times. So I renamed it. All right, because in this case, Bob really wants to keep track of the iPads. All right. In fact, I couldn't write what Bob wanted to say there because it's not, not not polite. So, but Bob wants to keep track of those iPads. All right, whatever. Put that in the name, and so now your conversation with these clients is not about an MDM project. Your project is now keeping track of the iPad. So it's small. I mean, I know I've oversimplified this, but this is alignment. This is how the projects that you're working on go in line with what the company's trying to do.
So with your fiscal year clients, these we're talking about them now. They won't buy them from you until like November. Like, so you'll sell them now on these ideas, and then you'll know for certain you got the contract in like November. There's more to it than that, but that is the general rule for dealing with fiscal year customers. The frustrating thing, from as somebody who was a fiscal year corporate client, was when vendors would hit me up as if I was calendar year. Like, oh, well, it's the end of year's coming. Here's all of our deals. I'm like, it's not end of year for me. I can't do anything about that. Yeah. So what I would do is I would create room in my budget, like $100,000-$200,000. So if there was a really good deal at the end of the year, I could buy ahead, and I just had to schmooze my CIO to help that, and or CEO to help that along. And if you are able to get to me, a corporate client that runs a fiscal year, while I am budgeting, and you can hand me a proposal, and then based upon this list, I have no problem buying that. I just got to go get it approved. And so you just need to show value, because I'm asking for money from the city, or I'm asking for money from another government agency, and they're going to approve based upon what I request and what I have justified to purchase. So when you look at this project roadmap for Joe's Trucks, for instance, this is all the projects that we have recommended over the past year. So every audit that's come up, even if the client didn't buy into it, if an engineer recommended it in one of the reports, it shows up here. It may not be planned out like some of these aren't planned out there, but when we come up here, we see a couple of them are approved. Oh, well, that was from last year. These are pre-approved projects that we're running from last year's proposal. What if we want to add some more things in there? For those of you who have not used this tool yet, it is very nice to use. You click right there. You're in your QBR. You've talked through the list of things you've been talking about for the past 12 months. You say, hey, let's talk about all right. Let's start attaching some projects from our list that you just saw. Let's start putting those into a proposal. This one's already approved, so we don't have to worry about that one too much. And we can move down the list, and we can say, what all do we want to put in here? So we see that we already did these two. I'm not going to get charged for those. Let's get those out of there. Maybe there's an expansion project on them. But as we go down the list and we start adding in projects, I wish I would have had more projects in here. Yep. we use this account too much.
Yep. And now remember, what Adam is putting together here is a pre-approval process.
Yes.
Right? And I love this. Many of you are going to be able to feel the pain on this as well. You get into a conversation with your client, the next step is they need a quote. All right. But you go through and you spend perhaps an inordinate amount of time sometimes putting together a quote The client looks at it for all of maybe 2 seconds and goes, no, not interested. All right. That's a huge waste of time for you. So what we're doing right here is this is a planning phase, all right? The actual quoting and the building the materials and the specific pricing, that is a necessary process. That's not this. All right, we want to plan what we're doing. So we're going to get approval with our clients and see if we want to get this in the planning phase. If it is, then yes, we're going to go do the road. We're going to go do the full quote on that. But when that shows up, we have a a greatly increased likelihood that our clients are going to sign off on those quotes because they've already given a preliminary approval through this process right here.
Now, yes, the what I like about this is the fact that I can have this conversation while I'm in the room with them. So you can, if your process is you need to create a proposal or a quote before you walk in the room, that's fine. That's the way you work. Um, with Skip and I, we really like to have a conversation with the client. And so going through that project list and saying which ones do you want in there in the moment, like, oh yeah, we definitely want to do that. And you're like, oh yeah, I recommend this. Or you show them the full list of recommendations. And maybe you have a proposal already built that is an easy button. Like, yeah, let's just do it all. Like, here's all the projects that our client or our engineers recommended. Here's the details to everything that we have in there. Now, let's just go ahead and do it. Or you can create it and you can talk them through why each of these was recommended, when you're going to deliver them, and how you're going to deliver them. Maybe they need to fit a certain price margin in here, or maybe they need to fit a certain goal. And so when you're creating your project proposal over here, you can say, hey, Q4, this is going to cost about $10,000. This is going to cost $2,000 because you already have the licensing. And then you go over to your project proposals and you're like, okay, let's look at the 2022 fiscal year projects. And you can see that the prices have updated. Like, well, we need this to really fit in a better a better price. And so I don't know why this is overriding, Skip, but
Yeah, I think it's because you had that other project on there and it pulled it off. Yeah, I don't know. We're
right.
double dipping on project approvals here.
So this calculates up the number and it's going to throw it down here. And as you adjust it in your conversations, when you're just looking at roadmaps throughout the year, you can track how much you figured out is going to cost. And then you can add it into the proposal, and the proposal will update itself. So with the fiscal year client, you're talking to them today, like they have a budget of $75,000 for this project. They have a total of a $2 million budget for their IT spend, or maybe they only have $20,000. Whatever it is, you can then say, okay, for $20,000, what can we fit in there? Like, I really think enabling the communications tool and getting that iPad management system in place is what we need to do. Those would be my two high priorities. So you can tell them, like, you recommend it, put a light bulb next to it, and then you can say, let's put that on a proposal. Then you create your proposal and you add those two projects in there. That is the beauty of this tool, especially when it comes to fiscal year clients, because they can now take this work that you've been doing for the past year. Your engineers researched the pricing and everything for this, or you've been negotiating in your QBRs. You can now they can take this to their bosses saying, hey, I have a line item for my MSP. I need to spend about $45,000 on them next year. Can we put this in the budget? And the CEO can say, yeah, go ahead and put it in. We'll see if it sticks. And then you are along for the ride. This may not pay off for 6 months to 18 to 12 months. I know with schools, sometimes you have to look out 18 months because of the grant process. So being able, but the payoff is huge. Like, a school grant might spend $450,000 on a technology revamp, but you have to play the game. And these project roadmaps help you play the game. You can walk in there with ConnectWise and you can show them a quote and a proposal. But if you haven't had that conversation and you don't understand why it's going to take 18 months, you don't understand where they're coming from, the chances of it sticking are not are less. You also need to make sure that you're timing it correctly. When do they need their budgets in? And you want to get them these project proposals before they hand in their budgets. Because once they hand in their budgets, they can complain all they want, but they can't adjust their budget. I know that when I had my budget, if I wanted to use one of you guys to help me do my security services on prem, or I wanted to use your services to do log management or anything monitoring, I had to take it from somewhere else in my budget. I had to cancel another project. But if you came in ahead of time and said, hey, we'll take all that security monitoring off your hands for $120,000 a year, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that'd be a huge relief. Let me see if I can't work that to my budget. It's different than my budget's already approved. Crap. So which can't I really want this? Which project do I cancel? It's a much harder decision.
So think about this. So many of you, I mean, it's, middle of summer, you're already working with your school clients right now. All right. And we always seem to have at least a few of them. And look at the projects that you're implementing right now. Did you drive that, or did they come to you asking you? Did you win this in response to a bid, or did you drive this bid? Were you the one that created the bid? All right, and that is an interesting, place to be, because many of these organizations are going to have to go out for bid. But if you start the process with them, then you are going to be much, much better positioned to win any proposals that do come around. But the time to start next summer's projects is right now. So if you're working in a school specifically, and you look around and you see, all these things that need to be fixed, you see all these things that need to be identified. Now's the time to start having that conversation about how to fix that next summer, because there is a cycle that you're going to have to go through to get these accomplished.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to conclude this, is that this does one of Skip's favorite things. It keeps the money on the table and you don't forget.
Yep.
Or wait, no. How do you put it, Skip? What's your saying? You're leaving too much money on the table.
Yeah.
You want to get this in front of your clients. Like, how many times in my career have I come into a small business and helped them work through their technology problems? I'm not a solutions provider. I come in and I audit and I help them understand what they need to do. And why haven't you upgraded the Wi-Fi here?
Yeah.
And lo and behold, there was a project proposal 5 years ago from their MSP saying we need to upgrade your Wi-Fi, but they hit hard times, and so they just didn't upgrade it and they forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a $40,000 project that they were ready for this year.
Yep.
And so, but no one remembered it. Keeping it here, it may not happen in 2022. It may not happen in 2023, but these big projects here are still on the table. So every time you have a QBR, you can discuss, are we ready to do this year?
Well, even
move it off into next year.
Yeah. Even more detail than that, the projects that I typically like to leave on this roadmap are going to be the projects that we're talking about. These are the ones that we're having the conversations on. But if we follow that framework that I was talking about earlier, where we assess, we recommend, and then we land here on the roadmap, if we stick to our guns on that process, then if we make an assessment, which generates a recommendation, that recommendation is always going to be down below, all right, in the report. It's always going to be on deck down there. And that's what keeps us from just totally, spacing out and forgetting about this. And then as that project becomes more relevant, for whatever reason, whether it's budget or timing or pressures within the organization, I mean, there's a million things that can influence that. When that time becomes right, then we take the recommendation and put it on the roadmap. So, but we have to be diligent about that, or just as Adam was talking about, things get recommended and then years go by and nothing happens, well, it's because it got lost.
So yeah, if you use these things, you go in and you check it out, you send it to your client, and and they approve it. Now you can move it into your normal quoting system.
Yeah.
You didn't lose any time. You didn't like really frustrate anybody. It's ready to go. You can now rest easy knowing that your client has approved this, that it is now something that is in their pipeline. They've got it in their hands, and so that they are going to take this and put it in their budget for the next year. And so again, with fiscal year cycles, you just need to get that quote, that initial like, hey, here's what everything costs, so I can make a general budget. I don't need exact dollars. I need a general budget. Is it $50,000? Maybe it ends up at being $52,000. Maybe it ends up
Right.
50 or $48,000. I just need a general number to approve from the city or the government authority I'm working with.
Yep.
The more accurate I am, the more professional I look. Oh my gosh, they were right down to the penny last year. That's great. That makes me trust you more. Or yeah, they're within 10% margin. That's fantastic. But what I need is I need this piece of paper saying, here are the things we talked about over 2020 and that we pushed off. Are you ready to do them now? Yes, I'm ready to do them now. Let me see if I can't get them approved. So I'm going to approve this. Or maybe you change your process and you say, once the CEO has approved it, please hit approve on this, and we'll get to work on it in our quoting software, so we get you in pipeline.
Yep.
This is simply a soft sell, and it works. You can ask any of our clients, it works.
Absolutely.
So just happens to be an extra cherry to help the clients commit while you're in the meeting in a QBR with them.
And we've gotten into the managed services provider business model because one of the reasons was we wanted a consistent revenue stream. And if you think back to our older break fix days, as an industry, some months were really great. I mean, we were working like crazy, but other months were really slow because we weren't getting anything done, which also meant no money coming in. And that was a real challenge for our businesses. So I think as an industry, we've grown, we've matured, we've got skill sets, we've got employees. Everything has I think progressed in a positive manner with this predictable income. But one area of our income has remained very unpredictable, and that's the project-based stuff. If we want to get a handle on that, if we want to get out of the roller coaster of project revenue and project work, we're going to have to get into more planning. And that's where tackling that roadmap, doing these sort of exercises is really going to give you the ability to not only close more projects, but get them in and closed at a more predictable and manageable level so that you aren't wearing your engineers out. You aren't paying an engineer to do nothing one month and then paying him to work 80 hours a week the next month. Give us a better balance on this, but we've got to get these on the roadmap. We've got to be deliberate about it.
If you want to learn a little bit more about how to do project proposals, how to change, like you don't want approved, you don't want scheduled in there, you want magical unicorn to be a status for your project, reach out to Skip and set some time up and let's just talk through it. Like, let's talk through your proposal process and let's see what we can do to see if there's any holes in it. Like, why aren't people buying off on your projects? You should be walking out of a QBR with projects in hand.
Yes.
And that is a norm for members of MSPL or managed services platform, is for you should be walking out of a QBR with more cash planned, more planned projects. You need to stop leaving cash on the table, getting it in your hand so that you can run projects, because you guys are really good at delivering, but we're engineers. We're terrible at selling. So this is a process that works. This will help you transition your great services into something sellable. With that, I'll transition into the end here. Like, again, it's the end of the fiscal quarter. This has been a crazy year. A lot of companies are ready to buy and are ready to invest in products. The government institutions are going to be a little bit farther behind, but they're still trying really hard to move into that mobile workforce. This is, you all know the shift of the landscape is happening, and getting in with your clients on a Zoom session or on a QBR where you can talk through the projects that could happen this year and the services you can provide given the changing landscapes, that is going to help you sell more. You need to understand where your clients are coming from, what they want, so you can adapt quickly before somebody else does. And with that, we also have risk quarter coming up. And we're going to talk a lot about risk. And risk is a huge topic because we just came out of a pandemic. We just came out of a massive disaster scenario. And one thing that every IT person knows is as soon as you get out of a blizzard or a disaster, management's a lot more open to buying to mitigate those risks than they were
Yes.
a year ago.
Right.
So get your DR plans ready. Get your risk management strategies ready because third quarter is going to be a ride for cybersecurity. It's going to be a massive cash spend. Mark
So,
my words, cybersecurity is going to go through the roof in quarter three.
yep.
It's all going to be around disaster recovery.
Well, even, practically, if you're looking through the architect, if you're doing our HIT templates, you're in the architecture assessment. The seventh category there is physical devices or physical management, I think. And then one of the categories is the checkbox down there on temperature and fire and temperature monitoring in the data center. All right. I left a little, just a open-ended statement out there. In the back end, we know there's a lot of tools. I mean, sometimes we're just slapping a module in the APC. Other times, we've got specific devices, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you're, in North America on the western-ish, northern-ish part of the continent right now, that is an easy sell, right? 40 degrees centigrade, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, all these outrageous temperatures. And you talk to people and go, hey, your data centers are overheating, or your data center overheated in the middle of the night. All right. Those are the kind of things that, we need the alerting systems. And so these are easy ways to capitalize on what's going on, but we've got to get it out there, got to get it in front of them.
Yep. So thank you for everybody for coming on. If you have any questions, reach out to us. You have our email addresses. Coaching@virtualc.biz still works. I should probably make a coaching at managed services platform so that I can stop using the old virtual C address. And if you have questions, please reach out. You are part of this community. You get time with us. If you want time with me, if you want time with Skip, time with Miles, or anybody else on staff, just reach out. We'll give you time. We'll help you be successful. We want to hear your success stories, and we want to see you have a record year this year because people are doing it. This is the year of IT. The next 5 years is going to be a fun time to be in a managed services business.
Yep,
people
absolutely.
are moving and people are changing the way they do business. And it's all focused around technology, which is good for us.
There you
All
go.
right. Everyone have a great day. Have a happy 4th of July weekend for you people in the United States. Try to come back with all your digits. If not, come back with great stories.
There you go. See you guys.